Greetings, chess fans. My name is Arturs Neiksans. I'm the leading Latvian chess grandmaster, and I'm reporting from Berlin in Germany, where I'm playing in Bundesliga. But this is not why I'm making this video. As you probably are aware, the sixth game of the World Championship match, Liren against Dommaraju Gukesh, is over. And even though I just finished my Bundesliga game, I would like to go through and show you what happened in this World Championship match. So once again, the first 5 games of the World Championship up to this moment were having their ups and downs. The score was equal, 2.5 points. And let's see what the world champion attempted to do with the white color. So you think it was something ambitious? No, it was the London opening. There you go, a pet weapon of Magnus Carlsen, of course, of many chess fans all over the world. The world champion decided to pay his tribute to this very sneaky opening for white. So Gukesh responded with e5, e3, e6. I think this is the most solid way to meet London. I mean, naturally, I am not going to talk about million ways how black can meet London. Black can play, for example, d5, c5, and queen b6 and try to punish white for his right to exist. But anyway, this is also pretty solid. And maybe the small nuance here, the move c5. I've always thought that bishop d6, from my perspective, is a bit more accurate because it immediately asks white what to do with the bishop, and there's this big idea. So let's say white goes something like bishop g3, castles, and for example c3. Black wants to play c5, knight e2, queen c7, and let's say you play bishop d3, black plays knight e7 and pushes e5. So this is the core idea, that black very quickly starts with his bishop d6 castle, only then plays c5 and queen c7. But you know, of course, I'm not going to even try to compete with the knowledge of Gukesh, so Gukesh was perfectly happy with this move order as well. But now there's a nuance. The nuance is that after c3, bishop d6, now white can give this check bishop b5, and as you can see, bishop d7 now is impossible because the bishop on d6 is under attack. So knight c6 was played, bishop takes on c6, b takes on c6, bishop takes, queen takes, and queen a4. So all of this has been played before, so I was really curious what the world champion has prepared as a surprise for this game. To be honest, it remains to be seen. But queen a4 is an idea. He wants to play queen a3 and exploit the pin. And if black at some point decides to play c takes on d4, white is simply going to play c takes on d4, should castle, and let's say knight e2. So white wants to occupy the c5 square, maybe play rook c1, knight b3, and knight c5, and potentially black could have problems because of the light square bishop. And again, c5 is queen a3, knight b3, and the pawn perhaps is lost. So what happened here in this game? Short castle was played, queen a3 pinning the pawn on c5, knight e4. As you can see, both players were still within the prep, knight f to d2. By the way, this is a typical idea from the Slav orations. Sometimes the knight doesn't go to d2. The other knight, for example, if you go knight b to d2, there are some nuances, but I think that at the end of the day, black can just simply take on d4, queen d6, knight e6, c takes on d4, black plays rook b8, b3, bishop a6, and then in some lines this knight on f3 is not really that great. So Ding was attempting somehow improve this line with knight f to d2 here. Now, if you play c takes on d4, there are some nuances. For example, you can take on e4, and after queen a3, you suddenly have the queenside knight here. So knight takes here, d takes on e4, c takes on d4, and somehow, what is better? So, okay, this was still obviously the prep of all players. Knight after d2 opens some doors, but also closes the other ones, meaning no longer white controls the e5 square, so Gukesh played pretty quickly e5. Now e4, d takes on e4 seems to be necessary, white collected the pawn on c5, and black plays queen g6. Now the problem is for white, the pawn on g2 is very difficult to defend, because if you castle short, there's bishop h3. If you play g3, bishop takes on f1 is going to be probably least of your worries, even though the position for white is just bad. I think I would be also afraid about queen f6 and queen f3. So it's not so easy to parry, and if you play something like g3, I'm talking about bishop g4, bishop f3, and the white king is always in danger. So here, Ding played 92, still well within the prep. Queen takes on g2 was played, and long castle. So I think this was Ding's idea for this game. Position the king on the other side of the board, so you see the king is on the queen side for white, the black king is at the king side. So this means highly unbalanced game. So queen f2, Gukesh just was collecting the pawns left and right. Rook b8, knight c4, bishop e6, all of these moves make perfect sense. Rook d2, queen f3, and the position is about the balance. So here Gukesh decided to force the matters and played bishop takes on c4. I'm not really sure he had to do it. I mean, the bishop on e6 feels pretty strong, right? But okay, fine. So he decided to take on c4 so that he wins the pawn on e5. And now the point is after queen c6, queen e5, queen e5, queen e7, queen d6, the first major moment of the game. Watch this. Ding Liren offers a draw, a repetition. And I think it's quite understandable because when you look at the position and try to evaluate who is better, it's very difficult to understand because you see white has a two-pawn majority at the queen side, but the same is for black. And essentially this is a race. And engines typically evaluate this position somehow to be balanced. Actually here, the Silicon B says the black is slightly worse, but you know it's very difficult to play this accurately. So what happened here? Queen g5, queen d5, the world is holding their breath on the waiting. It's going to be agreement by threat repetition because you cannot agree to a draw in a world championship match before move 40. What Gukesh does? He plays queen h4 and he says, no, I want to continue. I want to continue. So this was a very powerful psychological trick because I think that he needs to show the world champion that he's willing to take risks and also play with the black color. So Ding continue to play rook d1, fight for the d-file, stopping any rook d8 ideas. And now we're getting to another critical moment. g6, queen e5, rook e8, queen g3. So the position is seemingly about to simplify. Gukesh probably doesn't really want to take on g3 here because, as you can see, for him it's going to be a bit more difficult to organize two pass pawns at the king side, while for white it's much easier. So that's why here Gukesh decided not to take it. He played queen h5, queen f4, queen a5, couple of maneuverings here and there, rook d4, and the question is, who is going to start to push his pawns first? Rook d2, queen f3. Now, actually, Gukesh was pretty happy to trade the queens. The point is after queen takes on f3, e takes on f3, the pawn on e3 is suddenly under attack. Let's say you play something like rook d3. Black just advances these pawns very quickly, and you see black has two connected pass pawns at the king side. So that's why here, now it was Ding's turn to not to agree to the trade, but he didn't mind that black is going to take at f4. So this is what happened. f5. h4. Actually, that's a move I slightly don't like it. I think that instead of h4 here, Ding should have pushed the queenside pawn as quickly as possible, but I suppose he wanted to slow down black's pawn advancement at the kingside. Now, here, Gukesh played e3, which probably is an okay move. I think what he could have done, he could have played maybe king g7, king h6, king h5, king g4, ask a lot of questions to white about these pawns. Who knows how this game could have went? But instead, he decided to play this e3. Now, that's a move I slightly don't like because now this pawn on e3 potentially can become loose. So here Gukesh played rook e7, and this was the moment when Ding could have tried to win the game. So one rule about the pass pawns that I know, they should be pushed forward. So c4, b4, c5, b5, c6, advance the king and basically see what happens. Now here Ding started with king d3, which maybe is not a bad move. Rook e8, Gukesh protected the pawn on e3. I mean, you gotta push those pawns. But again, if Ding will play c4, Gukesh will play h6. If Ding will play b4, Gukesh would go here. c5 is g5, takes, king f takes on g5, king g6, c6, king g5, b5, f4. I mean, you can definitely see why the world champion was not going here because it's so difficult to evaluate who is even playing this for the win. So what Ding decided to do, he decided to play h5, try to slow down black from pushing g5. After h5, suddenly Gukesh took on h5, which probably was a surprise to the world champion because now it's not so easy for black to organize two connected pass pawns at the king side. Rook d5, hit a pawn on f5, h4, take on f5, and this is how the game progressed. So Gukesh was now relying on the two strong pass pawns at the king side albeit they're not connected. And most importantly, Ding is not pushing his pawns just yet. So rook g2 check, rook e2, this pawn needs to be stopped. Here Gukesh played king g7, and both players realized they cannot continue to play this position for the win. Actually, here the question is what happens after rook h5 here, try to hit a pawn. I suppose Gukesh could play king g6, rook takes here, king f5. I mean, this pawn is a monster. Let's say you play c4, I play king e4, you go here, I play king f4. Now, white has two connected passed pawns on the queen side, but this pawn on e3, is a monster. So either way, here both parties decided not to risk it and call it a day. My overall thoughts is that I was very happy to see that Ding attempted to complicate matters, so he casted the long side. But again, he played the London, he played a highly analyzed line, and Gukesh was on top of his prep and basically had no problems. So maybe the critical moment, what could have changed the game slightly differently, is where Gukesh made a slight inaccuracy. I think it was an inaccuracy, this e3 push. Instead, I think he should have tried to push king g7, again, king h6, maybe h6, g5, king g7, king g6, and push those pawns. And he played e3 and then started to protect his pawn. Also notice, Ding did not push his queenside pawns at all. They were standing on a3, b3, c3 squares, and I mean, that was a bit weird, to be honest. Either way, the match remains tied. It's 3 points each, and this means that tomorrow there's going to be a rest day. And the players, after the rest, they're going to come back on Tuesday with another portion of 3 games. And in the meantime, the viewers, please write your comments in the comment section. What do you think about the game? Did it really live up to your expectations? What did you feel about the London? What do you think about Gukesh's choice to decline a repetition? Do you think it's going to have an effect on the upcoming games where it doesn't really matter? And who do you think is going to be the favorite in the second half of the match? And of course, if you liked the video, please do not forget to press like and subscribe to my channel, as I will be continuing making daily recaps. Thank you for watching. I'm signing off from Berlin.